I'll tell you a little bit about Om, because it was my first meeting with Mother for 1 hour in 1961. It was in November, I had just arrived, and she was waiting for me, because she sent me a message, a telegram through Jyoti Priya, who was the lady who founded the first Sri Aurobindo Center in America, in California. She wrote to Mother, I had planned to go to Shantiniketan, and the Pandit I was studying with said everything has fallen through, so you go back and practice samatha with your parents. And I said, no, I am going to India. The next day I met Jyoti Priya. Her name was Dr. Judith Thakur. She was a brilliant Sanskrit scholar. And she went to Benares to find the secret of the Vedas. And all the Pandits told her, this is just fairy tales, nothing true in it. The day she's going to leave, she meets Aurobindo Basu, who was my teacher. He brought me closer to Mother. And he says, I hear you've been looking for the secret of the Vedas. And she said, yes, but I've given up. All these Pandits tell me, all this cows and light and everything has no meaning. And he gives her a typewritten copy of Sri Aurobindo's The Secret of the Vedas. And she came and met Mother immediately, and she said, I have nowhere else I need to go. I don't need to search anymore. I have found it all in Sri Aurobindo. So when I met Mother, and she told me that I must bring down a new music, the Om Choir is the result of that. And 2020, tomorrow will begin our 20th year of the Om Choir. And Smita was at the first one. Wonderful. So we should begin with Om. Always we should begin with Om. And to begin with Om, we have to do two things. We have to forget our egos. We have to forget our mind, which always gets in the way. We have to invoke the Divine Presence to come into this group. And whenever we sing Om, it's always a sacred group. So we have to remember the sacredness of Om, the greatest sound in all the worlds. Om created the worlds. And so when I told Mother, I don't know how to combine words and music. I was only 23, I just turned 23. Mother says to me, no, you must go far above words and bring down the pure music. And that's what became Om. Since 1969, when she invited me to start the Gardens of the Mantra, she also gave me permission and her blessings to read Savitri. And I read Savitri for 10 years in Aurobindo, in the very beginning when there were only 12, 15 people. But we also started different choirs. We experimented with different things. In the end, I was given, you could call it the Adesh, or the command from the Divine, that it should only be Om. Now, when we sing Om, there are no wrong notes. No one can judge our offering, our sincerity, our surrender. So whatever we sing is correct, because we are not singing to the divine, but he sings through us. And that's the secret of the Om Choir. We open as a collective and sacred instrument to allow him to sing through us, through our voices. So let us begin. All notes are correct. There are no long notes in the Om Choir. Should remember to throw out fear and shyness, because we are all one family. Sri Aurobindo tells us that none of us are separate from each other. We think we are separate, we have different bodies, we have different looks, we dress differently. Soul is all the divines. The divine is in each of us, equally divine. No one more or less. He resides within us, but he's sleeping, and we have to wake up. The way we wake up is by opening the psychic being, which, come in. Sri Aurobindo calls the psychic being in Savitri. He says that the mother puts a being no larger than the thumb of man in the hidden region of the heart. And that is what we have to find. We have to connect with that and bring it out into our life. Because only the psychic being knows truth from falsehood, good from bad. And only the psychic being is always correct. And if we refer to it, we will know exactly in any circumstance what to do. So, before I begin with Savitri, I copied down a couple of things, and I wanted to share those with you. Because here Sri Aurobindo is telling us what's going to happen to us. He said very clearly, the frontiers of the ignorance shall recede. More and more souls shall enter into light. Minds lit, inspired, the occult summoner here, and lives blaze with a sudden inner flame, and hearts grow enamored of divine delight, and human wills tuned to the divine will. So let's look at those lines for a few moments. More and more souls shall enter into light. Minds lit. Right now, our minds are pretty much in darkness. We are led by desires, thoughts that are not ours, that come into us and go back out of us, and we say, that's not my thought, and yet it comes again and again and again because somehow we invite it in. So, the occult summoner here, so when the mind is lit, the mind can hear this occult summoner. What is he summoning? He's summoning us to enter into light. We can call him God, the divine, Purusha. We can even say it's the Divine Mother, Prakriti. So, what happens then if we hear the occult summoner? And lives blaze with a sudden inner flame. The inner flame is what has to be lit in each of us. Both Mother and Sri Aurobindo lit it in me, and it changed my life completely. I wrote to Mother. I said, you turned my life upside down. I don't know whether to go back and study music, to become a singer, or to study choral music and become a choir director. Mother wrote the following: one or the other. Because the important thing is not so much what you choose, but the spirit in which you will do it. And then she writes, keep living in you the spirit of consecration, and all will be all right. When I received that letter from her, everything opened up. And hearts grow enamored of divine delight, and human wills tune to the divine will. So when that flame, which is in the beginning a little spark, and has to grow until it burns away all the dross of our existence, until it becomes the psychic being to lead us into the light. These separate selves, the Spirit's oneness, feel when we have opened to the divine, we cannot help but feel and love each soul that we meet. We cannot help but have compassion and love for everyone. Even those who are strongly against us, angry with us, we have to love even more. Mother says love is the only thing that will change this world. She's very clear on that. But it's divine love. It is not a love that wants something in return. It's a love that gives and gives and gives. And there's no end to its giving. these separate selves, the spirit's oneness, feel. These senses of heavenly sense grow capable. We will become capable of feeling and knowing heavenly sense, which is nothing less than the divine's love. He continues, the flesh and nerves of a strange ethereal joy and mortal bodies of mortality. This joy is throughout Savitri. Even in the most difficult times when Sri Aurobindo has to go into the depths and face the darkness and bring their light, the joy is always there. In fact, Savitri says, at the end when she brings Satyavan back from death, she says, let us give joy to all, for joy is ours. How marvelous. If we could give joy to all, our lives would change dramatically. Now, that was one sentence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines, one sentence. I'll read it again. The frontiers of the ignorance shall recede. Now what's a frontier? Anybody can tell me what a frontier is?
When you stand to face something, when you face something, you read the frontier.
Yeah, when America was being built, they had to keep facing these frontiers and pushing them back. They started in the east and went out, finally wound up in California. But he says the frontiers of the ignorance. The ignorance is a force. It's a great force. It's out there and we face it every day. We see it. In the filth and darkness of the cities, in the pollution, in the toxic waste being thrown into the sea, into the Ganges. So the frontiers have to be pushed back. The frontiers of the ignorance shall recede, pushing back. More and more souls shall enter into the light, into light. Minds lit, inspired. So, what is inspiration? Taking in. Inspired. The occult summoner here, and lives blaze with a sudden inner flame, and hearts grow enamored of divine delight. Well, he doesn't say they grow in love with divine delight. He uses the word enamored, which is a very beautiful word. And I think most of us know or feel the understanding of that word. To love something very specially, enamored. I'm enamored of this poem. I'm enamored of this music. And human wills tune to the divine will. So here's his tune. See, when an orchestra gets together, there are 100 different people. Someone has to give the right tune. That is usually the first violinist or the flutist. They give the tone. For many it's A, 440, and in Europe I think it's 420, but that means how many cycles per second. So when we sing Om or Om, Om, different cycles. So, human wills tune to the divine will. These separate selves, the Spirit's oneness feel. Okay, at this point, they're still separate selves. We still see ourselves as separate. We would like to see each one as part of us, which we already are. But because of environment, family, education, we are programmed in a different way. We are programmed, I don't like to say it, but we're programmed to be different from each other. Each one is programmed to be different from the other one, which is just the opposite of what must happen. We have to reprogram ourselves. And so we're in the computer age, and we talk about programming. Well, this is one of the programs that we need to do. We need to find in each other that which is the truth, and it's also in us. And so it's not so difficult to find. We carry on. These separate selves, the Spirit's oneness feel. He capitalizes S. The Spirit's oneness. See, the oneness of the Spirit, if all of us can feel that, there would be no more dissension, no more wars, no more evil. These senses of heavenly sense grow capable. Well, we're capable of so many things, aren't we? Some of us cook well. Some of us dress beautifully. Some of us speak beautifully. Some of us know things that none of the others know. Computer programming, horticulture, music, poetry, art, so many things. But he wants us to grow capable of heavenly sense. Heavenly he uses here more as an analogy. He doesn't mean heaven. He means a paradisal sense, a sense of the infinite, of the oneness, of the vastness. And then he says, the flesh and nerves of a strange, ethereal joy. Well, ethereal is, we could say, beyond this physical understanding. It's more in the subtle realms, the inner realms, these ethereal things. People see elves, they see dwarfs, taking minute care of one flower, or one plant, or something in the forest. They're all over. There are two people in the ashram who see them all the time, and who have seen them since childhood. I can tell you their names. One is Lippy, her name is Lippy, and the other one is Sunanda. And Sunanda has seen the fairies for many, many years. They even photographed the fairy once in the Lake Estate at Merveille, and I saw that photograph. So, carry on. And mortal bodies of immortality. So, we have to grow capable of feeling immortality. Death is going to come to all of us. But death is simply a jacket we take off and put on a new one. We don't quite realize that yet. But Sri Aurobindo in the Life Divine is very clear about death. There is no death. And there are biologists who have proven from a biological standpoint that death does not exist. We've heard the other night that when the soul leaves the body and goes to its resting place, it's usually about 2.5 years, and then it takes birth again. And this occurs again and again and again to give us new experiences, because we can't have all these experiences in one life. The life is too short. 100 years, 110 years, life is too short. So we need more and more experiences to gather around the psychic being, which is truly our inner soul that unites with the divine. Now he says, a divine force shall flow through tissue and cell. Now this is interesting because no one has had this experience before. Mother was transforming her cells with the divine force. And she talked about it at great length in the agenda, but also there was the ashram bulletin. Some of you may have seen the ashram bulletin, in which it came out 4 times a year on Darshan days. And there was a section called Notes on the Way. And Mother would describe everything that was happening to her in the Notes on the Way. And she said that she found a mind of the cells, a cellular mind. Now, science is getting very close to this. They've already accepted that there is a consciousness that has made the world, but they won't mention soul or God, but they do mention that there is a consciousness that has created all of this. But they think it's at random. Everything is chaos. And so we have all these chaos theories and string theories. But Mother began speaking to the cells. She could converse with them. And one would say, okay, I accept to be transformed. And another one would say, no, I like what I have, or what I am. Interestingly, many of them were transformed. And Mother wrote to us and told us that anyone, anywhere on this earth who was open to that, those cells would come into their bodies. My gosh. A divine force shall flow through tissue and cell and take charge of breath and speech and act. This is a very powerful line. It is this divine force, expressive through the psychic being, that can take charge of our entire life. That can give us the clue, the direction that we must take towards transformation and the new body. The new body is often called the cor glorio, the glorious body. And it will be sexless. No male, no female. No organs, either reproductive organs or other organs. And the Mother tells us that we will take in from the atmosphere all the energy we need. And some of you know about Tesla. How many know about Tesla? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, very good. He found free energy. But big multinationals will not allow it as yet. But it will come one day. A small box like that, my friend has seen powering an entire house. A little box. No electricity, no petrol, no diesel, no fuel, no moving parts, and the whole house was powered with electric, air conditioning, whatever one was needed. He saw it in Switzerland. But it has to be hidden, or these people would be killed. There was a fellow named Rife, and when my wife had terminal cancer, ovarian cancer, I bought his machine. And that machine, we used to hook her up every day. I bought a phony one. But Rife was killed, his laboratory burned down, and almost all the scientists who worked with him were killed. And this has happened again and again and again. I don't want to get into these stories because it's so sad that people want to hold back from the light and live in the darkness. A divine force shall flow through tissue and cell and take the charge of breath and speech and act, and all the thoughts shall be a glow of suns. My gosh, what a lie. The sun for us represents the divine. It is the symbol of the divine. And we know that without sun there would be no earth. There would be no life. The life of plants, they're constantly striving towards life. Fighting for it, in fact, in a forest. Competing for it, the trees. So the sun is the divine. Surya. Namaste. And all the thoughts shall be a glow of suns, a glow. The glow of the candle. The glow of a person's face. The glow of a sunset, of a sunrise. And every feeling a celestial thrill. So he used heavenly once, now he uses celestial. At other times he'll use paradisal. All speaking of this highest realm, which he termed the supramental, in which all is one. There are no differences. Now I'm going to give up in 5 minutes because I've gone much too long tonight, I think. So let me finish this. Then he says, often a lustrous inner dawn